Hey guys, it's Ray Ferguson with Boots in Business, and it's episode number 6, and we're staying on the military real estate theme. We're going to be talking about today the pros and cons of renting off the base. Okay, so pros and cons behind that, because even though I personally don't like to rent, sometimes it's necessary for me to do it, just like it is for you. But there's a lot of pros and cons behind it. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you may be kind of teetering back and forth as to what you want to do when you're going from base to base. Maybe you're new in the military and you're trying to figure out what do you want to do when you get to your new base. So that's kind of what this segment's designed around. Some of the pros, you get to choose where you live, right? You don't have to live on the base, unless you're mandated by the government, which you may. But you may have to live on the base. What I like about actually with the military is they kind of just give you your housing allowance if you're able to move off the base and say, okay, you take it, go live wherever you want. You can live in a trailer, you can live in a dumpster, right? Wherever it is, you can live in a nice house. You can live wherever you want. You could save your BAH, or you could turn around and max it out, and you can actually pay a lot more over top of your BAH if you want to live in something bougie and something really nice. So it depends on you. You get to define the area. You get to define where the schools are. You get to put the money into the type of property that you want, but you're just renting it. So the con of that is you're paying somebody else's mortgage. You're paying for somebody else's financial freedom in the future, not your own. So that's the con behind it. Even though you're able to pick and choose where you live and what type of property you're in, I think that's amazing, especially if you're first getting to the base until you figure out everything, the landscape of your jobs, the schools, how, if you've got a spouse, where they're going to be working, kind of get everybody situated. Renting off the base is amazing. And I've had to do it for many, many, many years and many times. But sometimes I've kind of worked myself into actually buying an investment and moving into that, which is what I like to teach you, especially if you're still in the military. You get to pay the price that you like for that property. Again, you could be living in a small trailer and only paying a few $100s a month, even though it's a lot more expensive than that now. But you can do that if you like, or rent a small house or a bigger house. You can choose the price point. Okay, a lot of it depends on the schools and the area, the security, and stuff like that. So pick wise, and again, maybe it's worth talking to a realtor in there and find out which areas you need to be looking into. But that real estate manager will also give you a lot of good information. Now, the one thing I've noticed over the years is that a lot of the realtors don't really point military in the directions of schools, right? I think that's a taboo, or maybe that's a law that they can't do that now. And maybe it's just state by state, but a lot of times they can't tell you about the different schools. You should go here because these schools and things like that. You got to do research on your own. And I like greatschools.com, I think is the website, but you could do research on those schools way in advance. Um, you know, and you can actually save money by renting off the base. You can save your housing allowance. So if you're getting $1,500 a month in housing allowance, you're only paying $1,000 out in rent and utilities that come along with it. I mean, you could be making an extra $500 a month to go do whatever you want and put in an investment account. So you can pick and choose where you want. You just have to be judicial and do a little research. Don't just jump into the first thing that's open. And a lot of times on the military base, there's off-post housing. Okay, I know in the Army, that's what it is. I don't know about the other branches, but I'm assuming that you have off-post housing offices on the base. You just need to find out where that is, and go talk to the people. And a lot of times they'll have really good, nice areas for you to go rent. And a lot of times they have personally gone out and checked out those properties before they put them out in front of the military. So I've personally seen that because I've got an Airbnb here in the Petersburg near Fort Gregg Adams, and we wanted to put it up there with the off-post housing. They said, hey, we're going to come out and do an inspection. I said, great, come on out. So they went out and checked it out, and they said, lovely house, no problem. And so they put it on the website, and was able to upload pictures and things like that. So check with your off-post housing. On-post housing, of course, is your military base housing, but check with off-post housing before you start talking to realtors and start going off the base and just kind of going where you want. Check with off-post housing, because they can probably point you in the right direction. The other good pro about living off the base is you could be more private in your life, right? The one thing I didn't like living on the base, me personally, for me and my family, was I always felt like I was being looked at. I was always in the fishbowl. Even though in the military, you're in that fishbowl, the glass fishbowl, and everybody's looking at you. But it's different with you and your family. And, oh God, we got to go mow the grass because it's getting a little bit too high. Or don't leave the little cars and toys out on the yard. Let's take them into the back or get them in the house. I always felt like I was in a fishbowl when I lived up on the base. And again, maybe that's just me, but I think a lot of people probably feel that way. How much privacy do you really want in your life? That's the reason why I like to move off base, because then sometimes it may take a while, but a lot of times people don't know I'm in the military, but and maybe they do. They see me in uniform or whatever, but a lot of times I feel like I'm not in the glass fishbowl as much if I'm living off the base. And living on the base, it's got a lot of got a lot of great qualities behind it. But living off the base, I really got that privacy. And another good pro is you got that military lease clause. So if you've got to deploy, you got to move out fast or something like that, landlords know that you're in the military because they've looked at your LES, they've looked at your paycheck, they know what you're bringing in. Guess what? The lease gets broken, and if they don't want to break it, you get JAG involved up on the base. And but a lot of times you'll get their letter saying, "Look, you're deploying, you're PCSing. I have got to go and handle my nation's business." And almost every time you're going to be able to get out of that lease, unless there's some special thing that was put in there. But a lot of times they can't do that if they're going to rent to military. So get the military back. You get the military legal system to help you out as well. There are some cons from living off the base, right? Like we talked about, you've got some things that are out there. If you're using that money and paying somebody else's financial future, and you're not doing that for yourself. You're putting money there. You're living in a nice place. Hopefully, it's nice and safe for you. But because you're paying rent, you're not building equity. You're not building equity in that property. Okay, you're not building equity in your future that you can leverage later down the road. You may have cash flow because, again, you may be paying $1,500 a month or getting $1,500 in house allowance and paying $1,000 out in lease and utilities, and you're cash flowing $500. Great, use that to your advantage. Put that in your TSP or your savings account. Right, put that money back and save it for a rainy day, or to buy an investment or buy a house when you move to your next location. But if you're paying rent, you're not building equity. Doesn't get any cleaner than that. You're getting no tax advantages. You're not getting any depreciation. You're not getting tax advantages behind that. So you want to keep that in mind. Financially, it may not be to your best interest. It may be to your best interest if you don't know if you're going to be there for 6 months or a year or 2 years. Fully get it. Being in the military in over 29 years and moving from, probably like 15 different bases back and forth, I get it. You don't know when you're leaving sometimes. And if you're unsure, rent. Don't buy something. Don't get yourself into it, because it's hard to get out of something that you've bought. And so renting sometimes is the best option for those reasons, for sure, especially with the military. You're probably living further away from work as well, because, off-post housing a lot of times is further away from where you're working on the base. And PT at 6 a.m, comes every morning, and, you just got to make sure you can get in there and fight all that traffic. So that's another thing, is getting on the base. Whereas if you lived on the base, it's a lot easier, maybe just to ride your bike to PT in the mornings, or to get to work. The other key thing, and this really gets into the personal side of, renting off the base. A lot of landlords don't like you to have your pets. Well, if you're anything like me, pets to me and my family, they were my family. Okay, my pets were my family. And if they didn't allow my dogs in or houses in, well, I'll put it like this. The housing market looked like this. And then when it come down to the ones that would allow pets in, it went just like this. Okay, that's what was available to me of who would lease out and have pets. So pets are a hindrance when it comes to renting. But I know if you love your pets like I do, they are your family. They're your kids, and you want to make sure they're taken care of. And so a lot of times that may be the reason to move on the base, because they're able to allow pets up there. But off base, they could be a lot more strict, and they can control the property the way that they want, those landowners. So you kind of got to be careful with that. And again, your pool of housing goes from here to here very quickly. Um, and another con is that a lot of properties may not have the type of storage you need. You may have a 2 or 3 bedroom house, but you may not have a garage or something like that to where you can store your property. And if you're anything like me, I have collected right now. I've got 3 garages full of stuff that I've collected throughout my career in the military, and it gets out of hand sometimes. But you know, as you grow in the military, you continue to grow baggage too. So you kind of want to keep that in mind. So on the con side, the storage, maybe not able to have pets, you're living a little bit further away from work, you're not getting any tax benefits, and there's no equity being built if you're paying rent. The pros, you could choose where you live, you could choose the kind of money you're going to pay when you move off the base. And again, use that off post housing group and office to help set you up for success. You can actually save and make money and put that money maybe toward the house that you're going to move into next, which would be awesome. Less money that you're having to dig out of your monthly cash flow of your paycheck, your LES. You're living a little bit more in private. Like I said, I don't like living in a fishbowl, but I've done it. But I can feel, people looking at your family or something, or it is what it is. But it also is a lot safer up on the base. And then military lease clause, you're able to get out of it if you're going to deploy PCS. So these are some pros and cons of renting off the base.